What is up, guys? This is your boy Zilla, and welcome to today's episodes. I'll be giving a detailed timeline of every Xbox Series X exclusive that I think is coming in this generation. But before I do that, please hit that subscribe button, also hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I make a video. And guys, let's get this because Microsoft just threw us a bombshell. I predicted it, and I had the video in the description. I predicted 3 months ago that Microsoft needed to buy Bethesda, and they came through and did it, which in the long term probably saved their brand and bolstered their Game Pass, probably changing the game industry, not just now but in the next 10 years. So now the question that probably every Xbox fan is asking: how many exclusives are we going to get, and what is the timeline of these exclusives now that we have brought in one of the biggest video game development companies in the world, Bethesda, and how their 7 studios had the effect on Microsoft's already 15 studios. So before I get into the main timeline, I just want to run down all the studios for Xbox and Bethesda and see how do they now fit into this new timeline for Xbox exclusives for this generation. First, starting off with Compulsion Games that just released We Happy Few not too long ago and are most likely working on a new intellectual property coming out of their studio. Then we have Double Fine that is working on Psychonauts 2, but after that they will be tasked with a new project with their new IP or current existing Xbox intellectual property. And after that we have inXile Entertainment, which we all know for Wasteland 3, which is blowing up right now, probably one of the best RPGs of the year, and are now in the works of a AAA Xbox exclusive new IP. Then we have Ninja Theory, which we all know are working on Hellblade 2 and Project Mara. Then we have Obsidian that their A team is working on Avowed, and we still don't know what their B team is working on. Then we have Rare that is making Everwild, but for their studio size, they could be working on another project. Then there's Playground Games, which we all know is working on the beloved Fable reboot. Then after that we have the Coalition that just last year released Gears 5. Now it's hinted at that they're working on a new intellectual property for Xbox. Then we have Undead Labs, which is currently working on State of Decay 3. And finally we have the quadruple A studio, The Initiative, which has been rumored to be working on a Perfect Dark reboot and is currently constituted. These studios are good, they get the job done, but Xbox realized that the pipeline for these games are way too far apart and they were going to have a massive lack of content in between. So that's why they purchased Bethesda and their 7 studios to bridge in the gap and the quality of games that you're going to be getting in between those gaps. So now we bring in ZeniMax Online, which will work on mainly Elder Scrolls Online for both consoles, but potentially in the future they could split off and do their own thing exclusively for the Xbox platform. Then we have Tango Games, which is currently working on a PlayStation exclusive Ghostwire, but in probably 2 to 3 years they're gonna have their own Xbox project. Then we have Machine Games and ID Software, which we don't even know what they're making. So they're currently in, the mystery zone of what they're making. Most likely for ID Software, it'll probably be Doom 3. And for Machine Games, it may be another Wolfenstein game exclusive to Game Pass and the Xbox platforms. Then we have Arcane Studios that has made super creative games like Prey and Dishonored and are currently about to release Deathloop on the PlayStation 5 exclusively. Microsoft's going to honor that deal, but after that, in probably somewhere between 2022 and 2023, they will have their game to release on Xbox platforms. So then we come to the big dog, Bethesda Softworks, which houses 2 of the most beloved RPG franchises of all time, Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and is one of the main reasons why Microsoft bought Bethesda in the first place, and why they're pretty much going to easily make back all their money just off the name brand of those titles alone. So when you take all these studios in conjunction with each other, the space that they're going to give each other, we can see better games coming out of Microsoft than beforehand, putting so much pressure really on 4 studios to make big time games at the fastest possible juncture to make the value of Game Pass go up. So now let's get into the timeline. Let's start off with 2021. What can I expect from 2021 out of Microsoft? And contrary to popular belief, 2021 for Microsoft is still going to be their weakest year as in terms of exclusives, as the timelines that have been set up. The cavalry from Microsoft is not going to come in until 2022. So this year, definitely 100% expect Psychonauts to come out on time. Forza Motorsport, maybe some smaller games in between, and then, and this is going to be a little bit of shock to everybody, Starfield. Now you might be saying Starfield coming this soon, and what about Halo Infinite? Well, I think Halo Infinite and what Microsoft is going to try and do, because Starfield is probably 70% done. I predicted 70% done with the game. I think the pandemic may have slowed it down, and now it's at 80% in its final stretch. And once we see the game, it might be 6 to 5 months before it comes out. Well, I predict what Microsoft is going to do. They're going to use Starfield as a smokescreen to get Halo Infinite another year of development, because I think they mini rebooted the project, and this has been in the works for months to try and help Halo Infinite come out with a quality Satisfactory product. So I think they're going to use Starfield in 2021 as Microsoft's big flagship game. Then the next year, which is the year the Cavalry come in, we're going to see Compulsion Games' new IP, which could be a Banjo-Kazooie game, which maybe I highly doubt, but that's still hopeful to think about, that they're a studio that is in that capacity to make that type of game. We're going to 100% see Hellblade. That's going to be its release window. And Perfect Dark, we're going to see that from the Initiative, their first big game under Microsoft. We're going to see Everwild. Those guys, they're kind of slow. They might have another project in the works at the same time. And I think that's going to be a very predictable year for them to come out with that game, seeing as that they're still mulling over gameplay ideas. And then late that year, we're going to see Halo Infinite. And the biggest, or really the toughest thing to decipher here is Halo Infinite going to be 2021 or 2022? And is Starfield 2022? And the thing about that is they can swap interchangeably, and this gives Microsoft flexibility. If Halo has to come out 2021, it will, and just improve over time. Or, you could have, Starfield, if it's that late in development, they could have that go first, then have Halo come later and soften the blow, and have two games to anchor the Xbox platform for two back-to-back holidays. Which brings us to 2023, which is where I think Bethesda's influence and their game pipeline is going to help Microsoft in between these years onward, because in that year I think we were going to see IE Software's new IP, or Doom 3. Then we're going to see the Coalition's new IP. This will give both of them 4-year timelines to make as big as a game as possible and bolster the value of Game Pass, because the more premium the games Microsoft makes and Bethesda makes, the more value and price hike they can put on Game Pass to start seeing returns faster from years prior, which will be now, where it's like $15 to $10. It might go up to $25 to $20 by the end of this generation in the name of value, netting Microsoft billions and billions of dollars and easily making them back not only their budgets, but the billions in acquisitions that they've been doing as of recent. And I mean, we're not even done with and this is really just 2023. We also have Fable, another game that's going to be given a 4-year pipeline to 3 to 4 years to make their game. And then you have State of Decay 3, which so they've been going, that game's going to come out that year. Machine Games is probably going to have their new IP that year or the year before, because between them and IE Software, they make games fast because they never stray away from what they do, which is shooters. And seeing how well Rage 2 engine-wise worked, I think that IE Software is going to work on an open-world first-person shooter game in that vein, which would be great for the value of Game Pass. And seeing 2023, just in that 3-year period, you have all this value so that Microsoft can then hike up the price. And now we get to 2024, where now you have Avowed. You gave them 4 straight years to make their new IP, not including their B team that could be working on a New Vegas remake, a Fallout 3 remake, and even a Fallout spin-off, because we know, based on the timeline Bethesda's given us, we're probably not going to see Fallout 5 until 2030 or 2032. the next generation of Xbox. So at this point, they're going to just start milking that name, getting Fallout in the minds and making all kinds of spin-offs until the big game finally comes out. So that's just from the second studio that made Outer Worlds, and that's not even including Outer Worlds 2 if they do decide to go that route. So then you have Tango Games' new IP coming off of that exclusive Deathloop game. That'll finally come to Game Pass in 2022. Arcane Studios, Forza Horizon, which will be one of the biggest games on Xbox, the best racing game developers in the industry making that game. inXile will have its new IP, which they can make a Fallout spin-off in the vein of the original Fallout games. I think they deserve it. They proved their worth with Wasteland, and I think they should be given that project as a reward. Then you have Double Fine making their first game under Microsoft, and that's just for 2024. Now we come to 2025, where Compulsion will be going their second time around making a game. Maybe, this time it's a new IP for Microsoft. Then we should see Rare's second game. And I think to cap it off in what would be one of the 2 weak years of the generation for Microsoft exclusive wise, just because of the development pipeline, it will end off with the Initiative's second IP game, which, whatever they make is going to be big. And I think the studios can be very efficient in how it operates, going on 3-year time cycles, only taking 4 for their first project. So then after that, in 2026, Machine Games will be making their second game under Microsoft. Elder Scrolls 6 will come out in this year, or it might come out 2027, one of the 2 years, based on the pipeline of how Bethesda develops their games and how much time they take. Then the Coalition will make Gears 6, the first Gears game under the Xbox Series X platform. They're going to come back to that after doing a new IP, most guaranteed. Then there's going to be Ninja Theory's new IP, which they're going to come with something very special depending on how Hellblade 2 turns out, or any of the secondary projects that have happened in between. Then IE Software's second game, then Playground Games' second game. Then you have Tango Games' second game. So now we're going on, the second time around. And at this point, you can see the value is going to really seep in. And I don't want to hear anybody say that the price of Game Pass is not going to go up exponentially at this point in the generation, seeing how all these AAA games and their content is going to influence the platform. So now finally we come to 2020. I almost forgot to say Arcane, but now we come to 2028. We'll finally see Double Fine, Obsidian's new IP after coming off of Valve, inXile's another IP, Compulsion Games' final IP for the generation, Undead Labs at this point will have their second game under this new era Microsoft. And to end off the generation, if there is another generation for Microsoft, it will be the Initiative with their third game. And just looking at this crazy pipeline for the next 8 years, it is definitely going to be a joy for Xbox fans to enjoy all this content. But we're not even done yet, because Microsoft is still on the prowl collecting game studios, and I think these 5 studios could be potentially in Microsoft's hands about the time 2025 rolls around. Now, Xbox has been talking about getting a Japanese developer. They really want to crack that Japanese market and have that revenue stream rolling in to Microsoft. And I think the 2 that they have been mainly looking at is first Sega, who are their partners in Japan, and they bring a load of great franchises and great name recognition such as Sonic and Yakuza. And there's Bandai Namco, which we all know owns FromSoft, Tekken, and all those great franchises that can exclusively come to Xbox and make great value for their Game Pass service. So any one of those 2 can do. Then you have WB Games that are probably still on the table in some capacity, which will be nothing for Microsoft. And then you can license out the DC properties to any one of their major studios and definitely help make more revenue than it would cost to even buy all those studios. Then, my surefire prediction is that Bloober Games, the studio that is making The Medium, is going to be bought up by Microsoft by next year. I think they just haven't announced it yet, or in the process of doing it once they finish financially buying Bethesda. Then I think also Farm 51 will be rolled into Microsoft's portfolio studios and will be upgraded to a AAA developer. They fit the bill, or both studios fit the bill of what Microsoft is after. Studios that are competent but not quite AAA level to bring value to their services and giving them the necessary resources to make quality, almost AAA level games for their service, which at this point is going to be making so much money from the price hikes and the value that they're offering. And with all things considered, Microsoft, with this move to acquire Bethesda, has set them up beautifully for the future, even when consoles start fading away. And if you're an Xbox fan, the future is looking very bright for you. This has been the best Gojira and UFC news in gaming. Sign off, guys. Y'all have a nice day.